What are you feeling?
Something's not right.
Heartbeat elevated. Frank!
Shift indicators are erratic.
Bioelectric is jumping. Check radiation. Press card. What? What's happening?
I breathe.
Check his airway. His lungs are seized. Intubate! Carter!
Welcome back to the Haddonfield Horrors podcast. We review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Tawan.
and today we're reviewing Hollow Man. Released in 2000, directed by Paul Verhoeven, screenplay by Andrew W. Merlot, story by Gary Scott Thompson and Andrew W. Merlot. Tawan, can you give the people the plot summary?
Sebastian Kane, a scientist who volunteers to be the first human test subject for a serum that renders the user invisible. Fellow scientists are unable to restore him back to normal. He becomes increasingly unstable and eventually goes on a killing spree.
Now, I have to say that I'm so happy that we finally got to this. The Hollow Man is one of those movies I wanted to review way back when Kennedy and I reviewed The Invisible Man, because they fit. It's pretty much the same movie to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But then I held off and I was like, you know what? We'll just do a whole, because I there was scuttle about them like doing Invisible Woman or an Invisible Man 2. So I was like, we should just hold off and we could just, watch all the Invisible Man movies and the Hollow Man movies to lead up to that. But then it kind of went dark on the whole Invisible Man too. So I kind of just forgot about this up until you mentioned it a couple weeks ago. To just you just randomly mentioned it out the blue, and I was like, oh shoot,
Yeah, it's because
why
it was on
not?
TV.
And by the time I got ready to watch it for the review, it was off Tubi, and I was highly
Yeah.
upset. But luckily it's on Peacock currently, and I had to quickly watch Hollow Man 2 because Hollow Man 2 is on Tubi, but the way it's going, it might not be soon. So, but I was excited to get to this one because I remember watch. I'm a little older than Tuan, so I remember the trailers for this when it was coming out, and I remember when it first got to like, oh my God, VHS and DVD, and when it finally got to like showing on the OG Sci-Fi Channel. Me and my grandmother used to watch this movie all the time. Whenever it came on, we were always watching this. I mean, I've seen this movie a lot. Like, I haven't seen it recently within the last like I want to say 8 to 10 years. But once I hit play, it all kind of just like came back. And then seeing some of those young faces like John Favreau and Elizabeth Shue was wild. I've seen most of Kevin
It's
Bacon's
not
movies, so
John
seeing that,
Favreau.
huh?
John Favreau is not in this movie.
That wasn't John Favreau. I swear that was John Favreau.
No, it's not
That
John Favreau.
man, that man looks like John Favreau. Who is that man?
If you're
No, that's
talking
not.
about that one scientist, that is not John Favreau. Or
He looks like that. Looks like John Favreau. Who was that?
which one are you talking about? The one who was kind of getting with the
Oh my God, that's Greg
yeah,
Gunberg.
yeah.
He looks like John Favreau. You can't even deny. They kind of look like the if you went. He's the guy from Heroes. Ah, okay. He still looks like John Favreau. I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you go with that.
But again, like I've seen this movie a lot, and I was kind of excited to get back to it. It's a little campy. It's a little crazy. Um, some of the I'm not a scientist. I'm not gonna pretend to be one, but some of that looked very non-scientifical. But that's not me for me to judge. But what about you? What are your thoughts on this movie, Tuan?
Yeah, I remember liking this movie a lot, and honestly, after rewatch, I still like it. When I was little, because I know I didn't see this in theaters or anything, but I definitely had it on. My parents had it on DVD when I was little, so I remember watching it that way. And I used to think this movie was scary as fuck back then. Like, obviously, it's not as scary now, like, but even still, like the way that the camera work is done here and giving you that sense of like, is he in the room with us or is he not? Kind of like that same feeling that we got with the more recent Invisible Man movie, shot by Lee Winnell. Like it was kind of giving that same feeling there of like, is he here or is he not? So that was like pretty. That was like where I felt like this movie felt the way that it did, and just the cast was really good in here. I was like, when I was rewatching it, I'm like, damn, this movie had a really good cast. Like, I'm like most of the people in here I know from something else, like Elizabeth Shue. I most recently remember her from The Boys. Kevin Bacon, we know him for so much shit. Josh Brolin, like he's in like damn near all the superhero movies now. Fucking Thanos. So like all the like the cast in here was like really good. Um, while like we kind of divulge into more of a like slasher type of thing towards the end of it. For a person that likes slashers, that's not really like a big deal to me. The way um, that it kind of ramped up that type of progression, so I wasn't upset with the way that we went with the story once it got towards the end, and at the where Sebastian was pretty much just like, oh, well, I'm tired of y'all and I need to kill y'all so that I can get out of here. So once it got to that, like progressed to that point, like I was all in because I mean, I already don't mind a good like a slasher type of thing. So once we were there, I was pretty locked in, and I really think this movie does well with the effects that have been in it because for the for the time. Actually, no, I can't hear you if you are talking. But for the effects at the time, I think this movie did a really good job with the way that they went about it all. Because they hold up pretty well here. Like obviously there's some stuff where you can kind of tell, like obviously it's not recent, but the effects in here look really good. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw that this movie was nominated. Yeah, but I thought the visual effects in this movie like surprisingly held up very well over time, considering this came out exactly in 2000,
Yeah, the
and
CGI is
it's
amazing.
really
Like
good.
him invisible is pretty good.
Yeah, and it was like I was reading, I saw that it was nominated for like Academy Award and only lost out to Gladiator, which that's fair. That's not a bad
Yes.
movie to lose out to for visual effects. So I wouldn't be. So I'm not. I wouldn't be upset about that. But considering everything else that surrounds this movie, the fact that it is an Academy Award nominated movie is something.
I mean valid, because the movie would have been it makes or break us believing that he's invisible. And if they couldn't pull that off, then the whole movie would have fell apart.
Mm,
But also just like the story structure, in my opinion, was really good because Sebastian was already like a narcissist.
yeah.
And like you saw that he cared about his appearance, about his hair, about everything. So like now that's you've taken away his vanity because he can't see himself. No one can see him. But also, I would think, what would that do to me? Like, at first, like him, it would be fun. But at some point, it would have to drive you mad that you're invisible and that no one can see you.
Mm,
Like, there's no way you can stay sane. And I love how, like, they kind of just, like, showed it over time. And I watched a video about the movie just to get, like, some more context. And someone pointed out that Sebastian was horrible to those animals, to the rat, to the gorilla, to the dog. Like he treated them very, very wrong. Like Peter would have been on that fucking lab ASAP. But the moment that him doing the reversion failed, he was then in the same condition as animals. He was being locked away and being watched and monitored. They had no freedom, just like he took away from them. And I thought I was like, that's actually It's pretty deep when it's pointed out, and I was like, "Huh, I missed that," but now I can kind of see what they were doing there, and I can appreciate it more. But let's get into the scenes. Were there any scenes that stood out for you? Good, bad, or indifferent? Scenes and kills. We could just mix it all together.
Yeah, I think one scene for me that still like holds up very well is the one where they're like reversing the gorilla back to being able to see it from being invisible. It holds up really well, just like looking at how, from the point where they inject it with the serum and like you can see the serum inside the body of it, then it's slowly like reconstructing back to life. Well, not back to life, like back to being like fully visible. It looks really good, and I like rewatching. I'm like, damn, this came out in 2000. That's crazy. Like
I would have
some,
loved to have been in theaters with people when that came out in
yeah,
2000, just to see the
yeah.
theater reaction.
Yeah, so that scene was really good. I like that a lot. Um, Another scene that I like it here. It is honestly mainly because it was the callback in Scare Movie 2 is when they got stuck in the freezer room and she had to like get them out of there. Because
Oh
every
my
time I
god,
see
I
that,
was thinking of that. That was all that was ingrained in my head the entire time.
every time I think of that part of that movie, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of that scene in Scare Movie 2, and that takes me out every time when I think about it.
You
that
know,
that
you know, yeah, that
was
I go there all the time.
that is so funny.
For me, in that same setting, when he kills the veterinarian,
Yeah,
I that was a good scene. Her using the blood, like
yeah,
honestly, just the shots of like him being covered in blood, and you can
crazy.
like that's a good shot. Like that can that whole scene could have been ruined if that shot wasn't perfect. And that
Mm,
is near perfect. We just see the blood dripping off him. He's still kind of invisible. Like that was a good scene and a good death. Like
yeah,
overall. Like the acting from like whatever CGI work they had to do, like it was that's a good kill for me.
yeah, that was good too. I did like that one. Um, I think the kill I probably liked the most was Carter's because the way that he like threw his eyes and his neck hit that pole or whatever, that was crazy.
Yeah,
Like
that was
I wasn't expecting it. Honestly forgot that it happened that way. I don't know why in my head I thought he survived for some reason when I was rewatching it. And when I got to that part, and he like dropped him on his neck. I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like the way it just wrapped up out of nowhere was kind of crazy. So I thought
yeah.
that was a good one.
And they were trying to save him. I was like, there's no way you're saving him. There's no way that he's so sorry. He's dead from this. No amount of blood pumping transfusion is gonna save this. I'm so sorry. But I'm
Yeah,
scene for me, when we first see Sebastian checking out his neighbor, I knew they were going back to that. I knew he was gonna do something
yeah,
to her when he was invisible. I didn't think he was gonna full on like sexually assault, possibly murder that woman. That's not what I had in mind. I just thought he was gonna be even more creepy and like be spying on her from inside her apartment. I didn't think he was gonna attack her.
yeah. That was a crazy scene, and really, yeah. I think in that scene, it definitely shows like a bit how kind of depraved he was. Which, we like you mentioned earlier, he was already a narcissist like near the beginning, but and he definitely seemed like he had like some screws loose. But now, this just made it so that, like you mentioned, he was just able to like fully do whatever he wanted because like no one knew it was him or that he was even there. So yeah, once it got to that scene for me, also I was like, oh shit, like I I forgot that the whole sequence of events happened. I don't know. I just remembered him like killing her or something. But when we see that he basically like assaulted her, I'm like, fuck, like he's completely gone at this point, and that was um that was really crazy. Like that was really crazy to see there. Um, and I think one more. scene that I remember, which I just remember this one for being funny, was when he was messing with those kids when he was in his car. It showed him his face.
Someone took off his glasses, right? I was
Yeah,
that would have freaked me
that
out.
was actually really funny. Shut the fuck up. The whole ride back.
I
That was
also
actually
think
that was a good one.
I also think his death was pretty on down the elevator shaft.
Hmm.
That was pretty good too. But also all the animals died. They were also burnt up
Yeah,
with
that's
him.
true.
So,
I didn't even think
that's
about that.
bad. That's bad. The kill that was like I saw coming, but didn't have any like impact was the army guy's death.
Oh yeah,
Because I kind of saw that coming.
pour
But
one out for Janice too.
oh yes.
They took
Oh,
our girl. Well, she was second technically. She ain't die first.
I knew she was gone. I was like, the black lady is not.
As soon as they left her in the room, like damn.
Yep, I was like, she's not gonna make it. R.I.P. But let's move on to the characters. Now, for this, we're gonna just lump in outside of Matt and Lydia, we're gonna lump in all of the lab workers together to just like do one big grouping. So, Tuan, what are your thoughts on the overall lab team?
Honestly, it really felt like Janice was the main one or Janice, sorry. Felt like Janice was the main one who was like, "Are y'all cool with him like being invisible like this? Cause he kind of
No,
crazy."
she was speaking facts. I was like, when the sister is giving y'all a warning, you listen. Because
Real, cause yeah, like y'all see how weird Sebastian already is, and like now we can't see him, and the fact that somebody feels as though like somebody's watching them, or they're in a bathroom, or something like that, like that's immediate red flag type shit.
it is, and I did not blame her at all. And like I was surprised when Sarah agreed to him being the human test. I'm like, Sarah, you don't like him. You literally were bickering with him up until this point. I'm like, why
Cause
is
she probably thought we
everyone?
gonna kill his ass.
Yeah, probably. But I just felt like, and there is one character other than Janice who I knew was DOA on site, and that was the lab guy with curly hair. I forget his
Oh,
name.
what, Frank?
Yes, I knew he wasn't gonna make it. I knew,
Yeah,
I knew there's no way in hell. I was like, Frank is gonna go. I don't know when Frank is gonna go. I thought he was gonna go right after Janice. I know there was gonna be like two people in between, but I thought it was gonna be Janice and then Frank, and then maybe Carter, and then maybe Sarah. I did not think that we were gonna like it's gonna be it's gonna be everyone else before him because I thought he was definitely gone immediately.
yeah, he took him out with the quickness. He was ready to take his ass out.
I don't know why they were so relaxed. I'm like, he just murdered three people that y'all are aware of, and y'all are just like by open doors and shit, like unbothered. This man is invisible. Why aren't y'all on
Exactly.
high alert? Like, I don't understand. I really didn't understand.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. Like not saying they were nonchalant about the whole thing, but for a group of scientists who made fucking at this point a person and animals invisible, like I feel like y'all aren't thinking a lot. Y'all aren't thinking about where he could possibly be and all of that. Because for one, at some points some of them have those goggles on. I'm not taking those goggles off at this point in time because we don't know where he is. Like just because like 'cause when he came into the room after he killed after Sebastian killed Sarah, like Frank came into the room with a like fire extinguisher to kind of like see if he was there and see if Sebastian was there, and obviously he wasn't like directly in their path, but just because he wasn't in that one area doesn't mean he's in that whole big ass room. Like, come on now.
Yeah, like that room is huge. Where I mean, I got they took the gases off because the pipes were leaking and like the heat from the pipes was kind of distracting. But like I would have still kept them on.
Yeah,
'Cause
because we have nothing else.
if I see that that a certain path of heat is walking towards me or moving, and I'm kind of hit Missy way, I'm gonna be on alert. They didn't think about that. But like whatever, they left themselves open. I knew the team was gonna get picked off one by one, but I thought it was gonna be harder because they're smart scientists. But no, they go right into the typical slasher movie
Yeah,
like expendable victims category.
they were on the some alien crew type beat, Prometheus Covenant crew.
Yeah, who that we didn't care about. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Uh, well, but what about Matt? What are your thoughts on Matt? No,
Um,
I will say I had to do a double take. I was like, is that Thanos? I was like,
yup. No, I literally did the same thing watching. I was like, oh shit, Josh Brolin. I like this character though. Like, obviously, he's another person that, well, pretty much damn near none of them like Sebastian like that. Like, it's kind of one of those things that like, oh, I got to work with this person because they're the head of like what we're doing right now. Basically, he was a project manager, and they're like, oh, we just gotta work with this person. And but he actually was trying to help though and get him like the serum so that he could come back and like as himself. So he wasn't like unuseful or anything like that, but Sebastian was just kind of like a dick to him. But they also had like friendly banter as well. There was like a little competition between them since they both also had a thing for Linda as well. So that was immediately going to cause tension because Sebastian seemed like one of those types like, oh, like I'll never lose you, like you're always going to want me back type of thing. So once he saw that like that whole thing was happening between Matt and Linda, that wasn't going to go any well. So Matt was at the kill list, was on the top of his list regardless. But I think he
especially
did
with
a
that
good
one
job.
time that him and Linda were fucking.
Yeah. So he's immediately boosted to the top of the list at that point because like Sebastian definitely gave like, oh, you're gonna love me and no one else type of deal. But yeah, I like Matt, but I did like Matt's character though. I thought that he was a good. I thought that he was good, and Josh Brolin did good with what he was given for the role, and now I'm really thinking back about like his character. Not saying that he wasn't giving anything to do. He was doing a good amount. I feel like, but we just spent more time with Linda and Sebastian than we did him. But in the scenes that he was in, I did like his character.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. We definitely didn't need more, like, because the way it's presented, it's like like the three leads. You got Sebastian, Lydia, Linda, and Matt.
Matt. Hmm.
But it's like, okay, yeah, these are our three leads, but we're not really seeing Matt. Like we see him in the we saw him in all the ensemble scenes, and then we saw him in like scenes with Linda. We rarely actually saw like just Matt just like off with Sebastian or Matt just off with someone else one on one. He was either in the big group scenes or he was in scenes with Linda.
Hmm.
I would just like to have seen him, but you're right. Josh Brolin did do good with the material that he was given. Well, let's move on to Linda, our final girl. Now, again, I was shocked seeing Elizabeth Shue. I was like, oh my God, that's my homegirl from Back to the Future and Karate Kid, and she in here looking good. And controversial opinion, she wasn't doing it for me in this movie. it should have been somebody else. Like I love Elizabeth Shue, she's a great actress, but I just wasn't feeling her in this role in this movie, and I was kind of disconnected from Linda. Like low key, she was like delivering all her lines hella flat. I barely saw any like real emotion. I wasn't connected to Linda. Come on.
You know, I could see that, but also didn't mind her characters well. Um, hmm. Cause you now, like now that you kind of said that, I'm like thinking back, and I could see why she didn't really do it. And I'm wondering, and now I'm wondering, is it more of like a characterization thing, or is it more of like an act actor type of thing? And I do feel as though this role could have been done by someone else as well. So I can see why you saying Elizabeth Shue wasn't really doing it for you. But Linda herself is just like a character. I thought that she was a good character in the movie. Like she seemed a little more smart than some of the rest of them. Like when just being around, like her getting out of that room by making like a magnet, her um saying like, "Oh, we fucked up the pipe, so now that like the heat is gonna be like the heat is gonna be level to his body temperature, so we won't see him anymore in this room." Trying to like so like just her kind of going through certain processes throughout things that happen within the movie. I felt that she was a bit more like smart than the rest of them, and was giving us results to fix this whole thing, and she wasn't really afraid of Sebastian either. Like the others, like you kind of felt like they had like a sense of fear when it came to Sebastian, but she wasn't the same way. Like throughout the movie, which probably because she dated him in the past, so like it wasn't like a whole thing. She like was used to it, so it didn't seem like she was like afraid of him either, or like unwilling to defy him if needed. So I think that's why I did like her character, and how she was cool to defy him if it was needed, so that they could either continue with what they were doing for the project, or to get him back like uninvisible again, because she felt that he was doing some like creepy shit. Like she was the first one to like, oh, like let me go to his house. Like what the hell did he do? Um, and she could just see that he was like being weird at the time. So I think characterization was really good for Linda. It might have like maybe Elizabeth Shue may not have been the best fit, but I feel like for what we needed within her character, she worked pretty well here.
What are your thoughts on Sebastian?
Yeah, Sebastian, oh boy. Um, Kevin Bacon was perfect for this role because, not gonna lie, just he always gives me creep vibes.
Valid.
Like even as just a person, like his like he always looks like he's up to something.
Even in Friday the 13th, I was suspicious of Kevin Bacon.
Like he always just looks like he's up to something, and like not doing good. So I feel like he fit really good here for this type of role. It's like playing like a big ass narcissist and all that stuff. And even when you're just hearing his voice, like he his voice has like not like a haunting element, but like a creep factor to it when he's like talking to them in the movie, and it comes across really good for the characterization that's needed to like get across like Sebastian's whole thing. And I don't know, like even those scenes where we don't see him, I'm like, oh, that motherfucker Kevin Bacon right there.
Hmm.
So even though we was feeling a little iffy on Elizabeth Shue, Kevin Bacon, he was perfect for this.
This was like I've seen a lot of Kevin Bacon's work from Friday the 13th Part 2 to Footloose to like the crazy like films he did in the 90s with Brad Pitt. So like you're right. Kevin Bacon, he does play a lot of creep roles, but I feel like this one was like perfect. Like he was in his element. Now, the only person I could see in this role besides him would be like a William Defoe. But I feel like Kevin Bacon brought the right kind of charisma and the
Hmm.
right kind of just like right kind of vibe to this role. Well, another red end, Twan, can you give the people the behind the scenes info and facts?
That I can. So, Hollow Man had a budget of $95 million and it made a box office of 190.2 million. Some interesting facts. Hollow Man debuted number one ahead of Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps, with 26.4 million in his opening weekend. During this time, the film achieved the second highest August opening weekend behind The Sixth Sense. It was the first film since Mission Impossible 2 to top the box office for multiple weeks. From the very beginning, the movie was to be titled Hollow Man rather than The Invisible Man. This caused legal problems, and the producers had to purchase the rights to the book called The Hollow Man. Director Verhoeven was not happy with the movie. In 2013, he told The Hollywood Reporter, I decided after Hollow Man, this is a movie, the first movie that I made that I thought I should not have made. It made money and this and that, but I really didn't. It really is not me anymore. I think many other people could have done that. I don't think many people could have made RoboCop that way or either Starship Troopers. But Hollow Man, I thought there might have been 20 directors in Hollywood that could have done that. I felt depressed on myself after. As of 2024, Hollow Man is the final film that Verhoeven made that was produced by a major American production company. Some critics' reactions. The film currently sits at a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. While some critics criticize the plot and acting, with some claiming it contains hallmarks of slasher films and misogynistic undertones, most critics praise the visual effects employed in making Kevin Bacon appear to be invisible, which earned the film a nomination for Best Visual Effects at the 2001 Academy Awards. Roger Ebert gave the film 2 stars out of 4 and complained that Verhoeven wasted potential by taking an invisible man and doing nothing more than having him go berserk.
Verhoeven really don't like this movie. Wow.
Mm,
He really let this movie change the trajectory of his career for like
for real.
like all those years after. Wow. But enough about him, enough about them. What about us? Do we cash or pass Hollow Man? Torn.
I catch Hollow Man. I actually really like this movie. I can see from the reactions, not a lot of people do, but this is one of those movies that just I remember watching as a kid. I remember liking as a kid. It scared me when I was little. Doesn't do the same anymore, but I still think it's a decent little watch. Like it's nothing like perfect over the top, but it gives me it gives me a certain vibe to it, and I like that. It's a little campy, and then it definitely goes into that more slasher realm towards the end, which I definitely don't mind. So I give Hollow Man a cash.
Well, for me, I also give Hollow Man a cash. Again, this is a movie that I grew up with, that I've seen several times, and I wasn't disappointed then, and I wasn't really disappointed now. This was a good movie. It was a good watch. I enjoyed pretty much the the CGI for the time, still being able to hold up, still being really good was. So this is a cash. I enjoyed it a lot. But join us next week as we tune into Hollow Man 2. Now this is a new watch for me.
Same.
Till then, good night.
If you like this episode, please check out the Haddonfield Horror podcast from big series like Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or our one-off reviews like The Blackening and Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the hosts post updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms and YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horror podcast is produced by Mark Smart,
Maria Perez,
Twan Griffin, and Elian Cordova. Themed by Lethal Injection and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?